just made me want to be a good father and a better human. And I knew I was just a crappy person for so long, man. I destroyed. I was just a bad human, and now I'm trying to turn that around.
If you think Jelly Roll has had it all easy and quick, you are completely innocent of his life story. This new talented and fantastic musician has a grim past, so dark and unlikely Jelly wouldn't talk about it directly because of the wrong decisions and poor choices he made. Watch till the end to see the unbelievable transformation of Roll's journey. From troubled teen to country music star, Jason Bradley Deford, better known by his stage name Jelly Roll, has one of the most unexpected and powerful origin stories in the music industry. Born in Nashville, Tennessee on December 4, 1984, he grew up surrounded by chaos, pain, and struggle. His early environment wasn't exactly nurturing. His father sold meat for a living and also hustled on the side as a bookie, while his mother battled addiction and mental health issues. That kind of upbringing left a mark on him. As a kid, Jelly Roll was exposed to the harsher side of life from a young age. Music would eventually become his salvation, but before he ever touched a mic, his life was spiraling down a much darker path. Jelly Roll didn't just stumble into trouble, he ran headfirst into it. At only 13 years old, he was already getting arrested. One of his earliest run-ins with the law came after he tried to use a chain wallet as a weapon during a fight with another kid. That landed him a strong-arm robbery charge. Most teenagers are worried about school dances or video games at that age. Jelly Roll was already on his way into the juvenile justice system. Things only escalated from there. By 15, he was charged as an adult for his role in an armed robbery over a marijuana deal gone wrong. He doesn't shy away from how bad it was either. He's openly called it a heinous crime and says he lives with the guilt every day. These weren't just minor infractions or petty crimes. This was serious time and serious consequences. His criminal record grew rapidly during his teens and early 20s. From the age of 14 to 25, Jelly Roll spent more than 8 years of his life locked up. His charges included everything from drug possession and dealing to aggravated robbery. He was in and out of jail so often that he said it became a routine. But even while incarcerated, Jelly Roll showed signs of wanting something better for himself. He earned his GED behind bars, a small but powerful first step toward changing his future. While many inmates come out bitter or worse off, Jelly Roll began to use his time in jail to reflect, learn, and eventually plot a way out through music. Still, up to this moment, he has seen a bad example to the young adults. Why? The list is unbelievable. Some label him as a troubled icon. Jelly is one of today's most unique success stories in music. He went from being a self-proclaimed drug dealer with a mixtape to a chart-topping country rap artist, a devoted father, and a vocal advocate for criminal justice reform. His story of transformation has inspired millions, but not everyone sees him as a figure kids should be looking up to. Some critics believe that, even with all his progress, Jelly Roll's journey could send mixed messages to impressionable youth. While his redemption arc is undeniable, his past, and the way it's presented, raises serious concerns about how we define a role model in today's world. Glorification of criminal past. One of the biggest issues people raise about Jelly Roll is the idea that his criminal history isn't just part of his story, it's a major part of his brand. Before he was famous, Jelly Roll spent years in and out of jail for serious offenses, including robbery and drug dealing. In interviews and songs, he talks openly about these experiences, not to brag, necessarily, but to keep it real. Still, there's a fine line between honesty and glorification. To young people listening, especially those living in tough environments themselves, the message might come across as, "Yeah, I made some bad choices, but look where it got me." That can be a dangerous takeaway. It can feed the myth that you have to suffer, break the law, or live recklessly to have something worth saying, or to earn street credibility. Critics argue that, whether he means to or not, Jelly Roll's past becomes a kind of badge of honor, when maybe it should serve more clearly as a cautionary tale. Mixed messaging in his music. Jelly Roll's music is raw, emotional, and deeply personal. He writes about addiction, pain, regret, loss, and survival. And while many fans appreciate his vulnerability, others worry that his songs can send mixed messages. On one hand, he's singing about the consequences of harmful substances, street life, and emotional turmoil. But on the other, the tone and style of the music can sometimes romanticize those very experiences. A slow, haunting melody paired with lyrics about getting high or escaping through pills can feel more like a soundtrack to self-destruction than a warning against it. For a teenager battling depression or dealing with trauma, it might not come across as, "Don't do what I did." Instead, it could be heard as, "This is what broken people do, and it's okay." That's where critics feel the messaging gets muddled. When music becomes a mirror instead of a map, it can reflect pain but offer no clear direction out. Substance use themes. Harmful substance, alcohol, and self-medication are recurring themes in Jelly Roll's catalog, and for good reason. He lived that life. He sold harmful substances, used harmful substances, and watched loved ones spiral into addiction. While he has since cleaned up and speaks out against substance abuse, his lyrics still often dwell on the darkness of addiction. The problem is that not every listener is in a place to process those messages with the maturity needed. For a young, impressionable audience, hearing their favorite artist sing about painkillers, weed, or drowning sorrow in whiskey can feel like validation. Even if the song ends on a note of regret, the repeated exposure to those themes may normalize or even romanticize unhealthy coping mechanisms. Critics argue that an artist with a platform as big as Jelly Roll's should be more intentional about discouraging harmful behaviors, rather than simply telling his story without clear guardrails. Even though Jelly Roll has turned his life around in many ways, his past still follows him, and that matters. He's still considered a felon in his home state of Tennessee, which means there are things he simply can't do, no matter how much good he tries to do now. For example, he's restricted from volunteering at certain events or institutions because of his criminal record. While this adds authenticity to his story, proof that actions have lasting consequences, many of his fans, especially younger ones, may not understand the full weight of those limitations. If all they see is the fame, the money, and the tour buses, they might miss the reality that the law doesn't forget or easily forgive. The concern is that without this understanding, Jelly Roll's life could appear more like a rags-to-riches fairy tale than the complex, lifelong journey of redemption that it really is. Public persona and appearance. Let's be real, Jelly Roll doesn't fit the old-school mold of a role model. He's heavily tattooed, speaks bluntly, curses freely, and has a rebellious, rough-around-the-edges style that some find off-putting. Of course, for many fans, that's exactly what they love about him. He's unapologetically himself. But for parents, teachers, and community leaders trying to set standards for behavior, his image can be problematic. There's a fear that his popularity might send the message that being loud, aggressive, or anti-authority is the way to gain respect. The concern isn't necessarily about how he looks or talks. It's about what those things might represent to kids who are still figuring out who they are and how to navigate the world. When your heroes break the rules and still win, it can create confusion around what's right, wrong, or simply cool. Association with street and prison culture. A lot of Jelly Roll's identity is built around the world he came from, the streets, the struggle, and the system. His storytelling is deeply rooted in the culture of survival, hustling, doing time, and living with the consequences. While his fans find these stories powerful and moving, others worry that they keep him too closely tied to the culture that caused so much harm in the first place. The fear is that rather than showing young people a clear exit from that world, Jelly Roll sometimes feels like he's still got one foot in it. That lingering association with prison culture, through his lyrics, slang, and interviews, can potentially glamorize a lifestyle that many communities are desperately trying to break away from. Critics believe that artists who've made it out should be more focused on dismantling that cycle, not simply documenting it. Lack of formal education and traditional success markers. Another issue that occasionally comes up is the example Jelly Roll sets in terms of career and education. He's been very open about not finishing high school in the traditional way. He got his GED in jail, and he never went to college. His success came through music, hustle, and authenticity, not through traditional systems. While that's admirable and even empowering for some, others worry it sends the wrong message. It might encourage young people to believe that skipping school, dropping out, or taking shortcuts is a viable path to success. And while Jelly Roll's talent and determination are undeniable, not everyone has those same gifts or opportunities. The concern here is that his story might promote a shortcut mentality in a world where most people actually do need education and structure to build a stable life. So, is Jelly Roll a bad example to youth or a powerful one? The answer might depend on what you believe a role model should be. If you're looking for someone polished, disciplined, and traditionally successful, then Jelly Roll probably doesn't check those boxes. But if you believe a role model is someone who's been to hell and back and is honest about it, then he's arguably doing something pretty special. Still, it's important not to sugarcoat or glamorize the darker parts of his story. Yes, he made it through. Yes, he's using his voice for good now. But the path he took was filled with pain, mistakes, and consequences, some of which can never be undone. Whether Jelly Roll is a bad influence or a bold inspiration depends on how his story is told, how his music is received, and how thoughtfully it's discussed with the people listening. Like many public figures, he's complicated, and maybe that's okay, as long as we don't confuse a redemption story with a how-to manual. Turning his life around for Jelly Roll, the turning point came in 2009 with the birth of his daughter. That moment shook him to his core. Becoming a father forced him to reevaluate everything. He didn't want his daughter to grow up with the kind of pain and instability he experienced. That sense of responsibility became the push he needed to change. He began focusing seriously on music, pouring all of his pain, regrets, and lived experience into his lyrics. His unique sound, a mix of southern rap, country, and rock, started gaining traction with fans who connected with his raw, honest storytelling. By 2023, his debut country album, Whitsitt Chapel, proved that Jelly Roll wasn't just a niche artist, he was a force. The album debuted at #2 on the Billboard Country Album charts, and it was filled with songs that resonated deeply with people who had gone through their own struggles. He didn't just rap or sing about the streets, he gave a voice to addiction, pain, regret, and redemption. That realness, combined with his gruff charm and emotional vulnerability, helped him build a dedicated fan base. Why is Roll inspirational instead of a bad example? Here are the songs that hit through the core, especially for those who can relate. Save Me. This stripped-down ballad is one of Jelly Roll's most vulnerable tracks. With haunting lyrics like, "Somebody save me, me from myself," the song captures the hopelessness that comes with addiction and self-destruction. It's a cry for help, and it resonates with anyone who's ever felt like they're drowning in their own darkness. For many fans, this song is more than just music. It's therapy. It puts words to feelings they couldn't explain and offers comfort in knowing they're not alone. Son of a Sinner. In Son of a Sinner, Jelly Roll grapples with living in the tension between wanting to be better and falling into old habits. With lines like, "I'm just a long-haired son of a sinner, searching for new ways I can get gone," he reflects on trying to change while still battling his inner demons. It's a song that speaks to imperfect people trying their best, something many fans find deeply relatable. It also marked his breakthrough into country radio, showing that real, honest storytelling still has a place in mainstream music. Need a Favor. This track explores the idea of turning to faith only when life falls apart. With the hook, "I only talk to God when I need a favor," Jelly Roll admits to the guilt and shame of being a part-time believer. It's raw and real, especially for those who feel disconnected from spirituality but still hope there's something out there listening. The song hit hard with listeners struggling with guilt, faith, or trying to make amends. Same kind of person. This older track remains a fan favorite for its defiant honesty. Jelly Roll addresses criticism head-on and embraces who he is, flaws and all. The message is simple. I'm still me, and I'm still standing. For fans who have been judged or misunderstood, this song is empowering. It gives permission to stop apologizing for your past and to keep moving forward, regardless of what others think. Smoking Section. A deeply emotional tribute to friends who have passed away, often due to overdose or street violence. Jelly Roll reflects on loss and memories shared, using the smoking section as a metaphorical meeting place for souls gone too soon. It's a gut-wrenching song for anyone who's lost someone unexpectedly. Listeners often say this song helps them grieve and feel connected to those they've lost. Dead Man Walking. A darker rock-influenced track, Dead Man Walking, paints the picture of someone who's emotionally dead inside, trapped in destructive habits and pushing people away. It's intense and heavy, but that's what makes it powerful. Listeners dealing with depression or self-loathing often connect deeply with this song, finding both catharsis and a sense of solidarity. She is a storytelling ballad about a woman trapped in the cycle of opioid addiction. It brings a face to the crisis and emphasizes the human cost behind the headlines. The song is eye-opening and emotional, especially for listeners who have loved ones struggling with substance abuse. It raises awareness and invites empathy rather than judgment. Bottle and Mary Jane. This track is all about using substances to escape emotional pain, something Jelly Roll has experienced firsthand. It's not a song that glorifies drinking or getting high. Instead, it paints a picture of someone trying to survive. Fans say this song speaks to the exhaustion of feeling too much and not knowing how else to cope. Creature is an intense track about battling mental health issues and feeling like a monster inside. The metaphors and features from Tech Nine and Chris Calico add even more depth to the theme. For people who feel misunderstood or ashamed of their mental struggles, this song hits deep. It says, "You're not crazy, you're human. I need you." This song is a tender, heartbreaking plea for connection. It's about needing someone not just for love, but for emotional survival. The vulnerability in Jelly Roll's voice connects with anyone who's ever felt broken and in need of someone's presence just to stay afloat. It's especially powerful for those going through breakups, depression, or grief. Why these songs matter for many: Jelly Roll's music isn't just entertainment, it's emotional CPR. His ability to speak openly about his past, his struggles, and his failures gives people permission to confront their own. He doesn't pretend to have it all together, and that's what makes him so relatable. His songs help people feel seen, heard, and understood in their darkest moments. And in today's world, where so many feel invisible or alone, that kind of connection can be life-changing. Giving back and advocacy. Jelly Roll's journey wasn't just about personal success. It became about helping others. In 2024, he testified before the U.S. Senate in support of anti-fentanyl legislation. It was a powerful moment. A man who once sold harmful substances was now trying to save lives by preventing others from making the same mistakes. He spoke openly about his past and how addiction and bad choices nearly cost him everything. Instead of hiding his story, he uses it as a tool to educate, to inspire, and to push for change. He's also been deeply involved in charity work, donating money and time to programs aimed at helping at-risk youth and people in recovery. In Michigan, he was even sworn in as an honorary deputy sheriff, a symbolic but powerful gesture that represents how far he's come. From felon to law enforcement ally, it's not a typical arc, but that's what makes his story so compelling. He knows firsthand how broken the system can be, and now he's doing what he can to fix it from the inside out. Still, not everything is easy, even after fame. Because he was convicted of a violent felony as a teenager, Jelly Roll is still dealing with the long shadow of his past. In his home state of Tennessee, he faces restrictions that affect his ability to work, travel, and even volunteer in certain places. These obstacles are a constant reminder that no matter how much he's changed, society doesn't always offer full forgiveness. But Jelly Roll doesn't let that stop him. He stays focused on using his platform to speak out, connect with people going through hard times, and show that redemption is real, even if it's messy and complicated. He's also made it clear that he wants to make things right with the people he hurt in his past. He's expressed a desire to reach out to the victims of his crimes, even though it's been many years. He knows it won't be easy and that some people may never forgive him, but the fact that he wants to try speaks volumes. It shows growth, self-awareness, and a deep understanding of the damage he once caused. A colorful career, Jelly Roll began his music career in hip-hop, drawing inspiration from iconic groups like 3 6 Mafia, UGK, and 8-Ball and MJG. He started selling mixtapes from his car, debuting with the Plain Schmear tape in 2003 and continuing with the Gamblin' on the White Boys series from 2004 to 2011. His 2010 collaboration with Memphis rapper Lil White on Pop Another Pill garnered over 6.3 million views on YouTube, contributing to the success of the hip-hop group SNO, of which Jelly Roll was a member. Over the next several years, he released numerous mixtapes and independent albums, often collaborating with artists like Lil White, Struggle Jennings, Haystack, and Tech N9. Jelly Roll's 2013 mixtape, Whiskey, Weed, and Women, was initially named Whiskey, Weed, and Waffle House, but was changed after legal threats from the restaurant chain. The cover was altered to include a cease and desist stamp in place of the Waffle House logo. Jelly Roll made his debut at the Grand Ole Opry on November 9, 2021, marking a key moment in his cross-genre career. On July 7, 2022, he was invited by country singer Craig Morgan to perform Almost Home at the Opry. In May 2022, Jelly Roll achieved his first #1 hit on rock radio with Dead Man Walking. In January 2023, he reached another milestone with his first #1 country radio single, Son of a Sinner, from his album Ballads of the Broken. The track also peaked at number 8 on the Billboard Hot Rock and Alternative Songs chart. In February 2023, Jelly Roll made history by spending a record-breaking 25 weeks at #1 on Billboard's Emerging Artists chart. On December 9, 2022, Jelly Roll sold out Nashville's Bridgestone Arena with 15,000 fans, joined by notable artists like Chris Young, Sam Hunt, Riley Green, and Shinedown. He also completed a 44-city Backroad Baptism tour in the summer of 2023. At the 2023 CMT Music Awards, Jelly Roll won multiple honors, including Male Video of the Year, Male Breakthrough Video of the Year, and Digital First Performance of the Year, all for Son of a Sinner. On June 2, 2023, he released his 9th studio album, Whitsit Chapel, featuring the single Need a Favor. In November 2023, he won New Artist of the Year at the 57th Annual Country Music Association Awards. In January 2024, he testified before the U.S. Senate in support of anti-fentanyl legislation, reflecting on his past as a former drug distributor and his desire to be part of the solution. In April 2024, Jelly Roll faced a trademark infringement lawsuit from the Pennsylvania-based wedding band Jelly Roll, which was later settled out of court. He also appeared in the country music documentary Rebel Country, which opened with a reenactment of his arrest in Tennessee. In July 2024, Jelly Roll was featured on Eminem's album The Death of Slim Shady, Coup de Grace, on the track Somebody Save Me, which sampled his song Save Me. He made his first international appearance at the Meridian Centre in St. Catharines, Ontario, in July 2024. On August 23, 2024, he announced his 10th studio album, Beautifully Broken, which was released on October 11, 2024. Jelly Roll also made his television debut on Tulsa King, starring Sylvester Stallone, with an episode released in September 2024. In the same month, he became the first musical guest of the 50th season of Saturday Night Live, performing Liar and Winning Streak, and later joining The Roots for a Johnny Cash medley. He also collaborated with Snoop Dogg for Last Dance with Mary Jane. In November 2024, Jelly Roll released Run It, a song for the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie soundtrack, with a music video released in December. Additionally, he worked with Brandon Lake on a new version of Lake's single Hard Fought Hallelujah. Expected to release in 2025, do we expect him to still be making music in the future? Still a big artist in the next years. Jelly Roll has already carved out an impressive and unique career, blending hip-hop, rock, and country music in a way that resonates with fans from all walks of life. From his early days of selling mixtapes out of his car to his current status as a chart-topping artist, Jelly Roll has proven time and time again that he's not just a flash in the pan. But the real question is, will he remain a big artist in the future? Let's take a closer look at why the answer seems to be a resounding yes. First off, Jelly Roll's raw authenticity is one of the biggest reasons he's likely to continue growing in popularity. In an era where many artists seem to be more about their image than their truth, Jelly Roll stands out for his willingness to be vulnerable. He talks openly about his past struggles with addiction, the criminal justice system, and mental health. This unfiltered honesty makes his music feel real and relatable, which has earned him a dedicated fan base. In a world where so many artists build their careers on carefully curated personas, Jelly Roll's willingness to share the messiness of life, good, bad, and ugly, ensures that his music stays meaningful and relevant. People want to listen to someone they can feel connected to, and Jelly Roll provides that in spades. Another factor in his future success is his musical versatility. Over the years, he's seamlessly blended genres like hip-hop, rock, and country, genres that don't always sit comfortably together. This fusion has allowed him to reach a wide audience. His crossover success is evident in his growing presence on country radio with hits like Son of a Sinner, while he's also captured hearts in rock and hip-hop circles. His ability to hop between genres without losing his identity as an artist keeps his sound fresh and exciting. As music fans continue to gravitate toward artists who aren't afraid to experiment and defy labels, Jelly Roll's genre-bending style is bound to keep him relevant in the future. Moreover, Jelly Roll's fan base is incredibly dedicated. As someone who speaks directly to those who feel like outsiders, misfits, or people struggling with their own demons, Jelly Roll has fostered a community that feels personally invested in his success. His fans aren't just fans, they're part of his journey. This kind of loyalty is priceless for any artist, and it ensures that Jelly Roll will have a lasting impact on the music scene. But of course, no one can predict the future with certainty. The music industry is ever-changing, and the tastes of audiences evolve constantly. What worked a few years ago may not be as successful today. However, Jelly Roll's growth mindset, the way he's evolved as an artist and continues to push himself, shows that he's ready to tackle whatever comes next. Whether he keeps exploring new genres, expands into acting, or becomes an even bigger advocate for social change, Jelly Roll's ability to adapt and grow will likely keep him at the forefront of the industry. Jelly Roll's story is a powerful reminder that people can change. He's not perfect. He'd be the first to admit that. But he's real. And in a world full of polished images and fake personas, that authenticity stands out. From a kid getting arrested with a chain wallet to a man testifying in front of Congress, his journey is nothing short of extraordinary. He didn't just escape a bad life. He used it as fuel to create something meaningful. His music, his advocacy, and his honesty make him one of the most compelling voices in the industry today. Fans and new listeners alike will continue to find comfort, strength, and inspiration in his music. And that's what truly matters in an artist's longevity. And for anyone who's ever felt lost, broken, or too far gone, Jelly Roll is living proof that it's never too late to turn things around. Are you a fan? Have you heard one of his songs yet? Write your thoughts below and subscribe for more stories like this. Thanks for watching.